Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. You're watching Quran and Science. And I'll start first by Abdurrahman Ismail. Once you listen to this verse, وَأَلْقَى فِي الْأَرْضِ رَوَاسِيَ, what is the meaning that you're getting behind this verse?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I get from this verse that Allah is enumerating to us some of His many bounties. He's telling us that He has cast into earth firm mountains that keep the earth from shaking or convulsing. And He has also extended rivers and...
it's a way to balance earth.
Yes.
Okay. And the second part of the verse, وَأَن تُمِيدُ بِكُمْ وَأَنْهَارًا وَسُبُلًا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ, what does it give you?
According to my own understanding, Allah is telling us that mountains and rivers could be used for directions or for knowing your way.
Okay.
Maybe there is a scientific connotation that I can't get from the verse.
Okay, thanks for that. We'll be discussing that with Professor Zaghlul. What about you?
Yeah, as my brother mentioned, that the point that is directly coming to mind is that mountains created to keep the balance of the earth, and
Yes.
the rivers just to show you the direction, where are you going, and to not...
What do you feel seeing the mountains? You've told me before that you are used to climbing mountains.
Yeah.
What do you feel?
Yeah, the feeling is great, especially Afghanistan is a mountain country. We have lots
Yes.
of mountains, especially the Green Mountain is very beautiful.
So it's one of your
Yes.
hobbies to be climbing
Yeah,
mountains.
to climb mountains.
Okay, so you're a right guest in
Yeah.
this case. Okay, let's now move to Dr. Zaghlul, and these are the feelings that and the meanings that you got from this verse. We need to know the professional interpretation.
I begin in the name of Allah, our Creator, the Creator of the universe and of everything that's in it. And I greet you all in our Islamic way. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace, blessings, and mercy be with you all. Mountains have been mentioned in the Quran in 39 different verses. And every single one of these verses is a scientific information or a piece of scientific information by itself. And this particular verse is really unique. Allah says, وَأَلْقَى فِي الْأَرْضِ رَوَاسِيَ أَن تَمِيدَ بِكُمْ وَأَنْهَارًا وَسُبُلًا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ. And until very recently, all scientists believed that mountains are surface elevations, are surface prominences. But only since the late 1960s, scientists start to realize that every single prominence on the surface of that globe has got a downward extension 10 to 15 times its surface elevation. So a high peak like Everest, which is slightly less than 9 kilometers, has got a downward extension of more than 100 kilometers. It penetrates the outer rocky cover of the earth completely and floats in a zone of weakness called the asthenosphere, or the zone of weakness, wherein the rocks are found in a molten or a semi-molten stage. By this, mountains are actually real stabilizers for the earth in many senses. Before I go to that, I would like to emphasize the fact why Allah says وَأَلْقَى. And Allah, and He meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has thrown into the earth stabilizers lest it should shake with you. The process of formation of mountains can either take place by volcanic eruption, where you can get a volcanic mountain, or by the sedimentation of sediments. So you throw down or throw up the material by which the mountains are formed. So it's a physical process of throwing, either upwardly or downwardly. The more sediments that can accumulate at the ocean bottom, once the ocean bottom moves under the continent, these sediments are scraped off and thrown on the continental mass in the form of mountains. So it is actually a process of throwing, either upwardly or downwardly. So when Allah says, وَأَلْقَى فِي الْأَرْضِ رَوَاسِيَ, this is a unique expression. And Allah has thrown into the earth stabilizers, let's shake with you. How can mountains stabilize the earth? The mass of the earth is estimated at 6,000 million tons. The bulk of any mountainous chain would be far less than that. How can mountains stabilize the earth? And as we mentioned in a previous episode, the word earth comes in the Quran with three meanings. If you compare the earth with the moon or the sun or the other heavenly bodies, it's the total planet. If you speak about the place where humans live and animals and plants grow, animals live and plants grow, it's the continental mass we are sitting on. If you speak about the soil and its reaction with water and the like, is the soil section. And the meaning can be understood with the context of the verse. So when we say وَأَلْقَى فِي الْأَرْضِ رَوَاسِيَ أَن تَمِيدَ بِكُمْ, it covers both the total planet as well as the continental mass which we are living on.
And the word rawasi means stabilizes?
Stabilizes, yes. Something that would stabilize, cause stabilization. The earth, as it rotates around its own axis, it wobbles. And this wobbling would make life on the surface impossible. And the distribution of mountains on the surface of that globe, either north-south, like the mountains on the western side of the two Americas, or east-west, like the Alps, the Himalayas, and the rest of the mountains, the Atlas, northern Africa. This distribution simulates putting little lead pieces around the car tire. Because any object running in a straight line will wobble.
Yes.
And this wobbling will make life virtually impossible. So the physical distribution of mountains on the surface of the globe minimizes the wobbling of that globe as it rotates around its own axis. And without this, life on the surface of that planet would have been virtually impossible. Secondly, we came in the late 60s, early 70s of the 20th century, we came to understand what we call the plate tectonics concept. The plate tectonics concept is established on the basis of the fact that the outer rocky cover of the earth is fractured by deep faults into a number of plates. And these plates, we have 12 major plates and a few small platelets that constitute the continental masses. And these plates float on top of the zone of weakness. And as the earth rotates around its own axis, these plates used to run away, you skip around, like skiing on ice. So with this movement, life would have been virtually impossible.
Yes.
So Allah has stabilized these plates by the mountains that are created within them or at their peripheries. Each mountain, by its root, can fix a continental mass in the ocean bottom. Or sometimes two continental masses can drift towards each other until the ocean separating them is completely consumed. And then the mountain can fix the two continental masses by its root. And then this movement comes to a big halt. Without this big halt, life on the surface of the continental masses would have virtually been impossible. And that's why Allah said, وَأَلْقَى فِي الْأَرْضِ رَوَاسِيَ أَن تَمِيدَ بِكُمْ.
And the positions of the mountains, now we knew more about the formation, but the positions of the mountains, you find countries with a lot of mountains,
yes,
and other countries without.
But you see, this is again, this distribution of mountains on the surface of the globe is scientifically and mathematically and from the engineering point of view, very precisely calculated.
Yes.
So that they can minimize the wobbling of the earth as it rotates around its own axis.
All right. Okay, before we go into further elaboration about this verse, we'd like to first take a very short break and return back, so stay tuned with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. You're watching Quran and Science. And Dr. Zaghlul, we were just explaining this verse about the formation of mountains. The second part of the verse is speaking about وَأَنْهَارًا وَسُبُلًا. What is the connection between rivers and the mountains?
You see, without the formation of mountains on the surface of that globe, rivers could never run. Because for a river to flow, it needs a head.
Yes.
And this head is only consumed by mountains. You see, the water head drives the water to drop from a high level to a lower level until it reaches the sea.
Yes.
Without this head, rivers could never form. And that's why it is a very important scientific reflection to connect between mountains and rivers. And that's why they say, Allah says, وألقى في الأرض رواسي أن تميد بكم وأنهارا وسبلا لعلكم تهتدون. نعم. So without the formation of mountains, rivers could have never formed.
And is there any other, if we can take it oppositely, does the rivers and rivers in the mountains, they change the formation of mountains by any form?
Oh, definitely. Rivers play a very important role in the leveling of the surface of the earth, in the formation of soil, in the storage of groundwater. It has got lots of functions, you see. So if you have rain coming down on a flat surface, it will never flow.
Yes.
It will never flow. So you need a head. You need a mountain peak so that you can get the flowage of rivers. And with that head, you can encourage the water to cut much more deeper in the ground, to consume more soil, and to open avenues in that globe, because the earth actually started by a highly rugged topography. And without the configuration of the surface of the earth in mountains and low-lying areas, rivers would have never flowed. And if rivers never flowed, life on the surface of that planet would have virtually been impossible.
Okay. Let's move now to questions. I'll start first by Zabihullah.
Yeah, Professor, my question is that we can see mountains in many parts of the globe, but some of these mountains are very wealthy. Like in Afghanistan, we have 136 kilometers of mountains area that are full of precious stones. So what makes them capable for this wealth?
So the question is, in Afghanistan, and there is a lot of mountains, around 136 kilometers,
yes.
An area of only
yes.
mountains.
Yes.
So what makes this distribution of the mountains in a country like Afghanistan?
Well, you see, in the case of Afghanistan, we have the Indian subcontinent was actually not connected with Asia. It was a separate continent by itself, and it started to drift towards Asia. And the collision between the Indian subcontinent and the Asian continent produced the Himalayas, the youngest mountainous chain on the surface of the globe, and affected Afghanistan as well due to this impact. At the same time, we have along the western borders of Iran, the Zagros Mountains, and the Arabian Plate is shifting towards the northeast, and that compression also has played a role in shaping the Afghani mountains.
Okay, my question is that some of these mountains are very wealthy by precious stones.
Yes.
Like in Pakistan, you will not find this kind
yes.
of mountains.
Yes.
But entering to Afghanistan, you will find all the mountains are very wealthy.
Because Allah loves the Afghanis best, and we pray to Allah to release your country from the Anglo-American occupation. It's really a blessing from Allah. It's part of the rizq, part of the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why you find many precious stones and many ore deposits in a place, and you don't find in the other. It's a way of distributing the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, so another question. Allah mentioned in the Quran, وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا.
Yes.
And we created the mountains to be is a pegs for the
yes.
for the earth.
Yes. As I said, every surface elevation on the surface of that globe, the earth, has got a downward extension 10 to 15 times its surface elevation. And I cannot find a single word that can describe the surface elevation, the downward extension, and the the process of fixation better than the word peg or picket. And then when Allah said, وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا, it's again a miraculous way of describing mountains.
And having this mathematical equation of 10 to 15 times
Yes.
the downward penetration of the
Yes.
mountains,
Yes.
Is it used scientifically in any sort of construction, maybe in the construction area?
Of course, we don't reach these depths. 100 kilometers, nobody goes
course not,
100 kilometers deep.
I mean the
Oh,
ratios
yes.
itself.
It can be used, definitely. It can be used, especially in high-rising buildings, you see.
Yes.
You have to calculate your elevation very precisely. Otherwise, the building will collapse.
Yes.
Will collapse.
Right. Any further questions, Abihullah?
Yeah, for the rivers, I just got a point that mostly if we see in geographical division between the countries, river could divide them into two countries, and this is like in the verses Allah mentioned that we make it like to show you the direction.
Yes. So I would ask you to raise your voice a little bit and repeat your comment.
Yeah, the comment was that if we see sometimes that rivers divide two countries.
Two countries,
Yes.
This is the border between the
Yes,
countries.
Yes, so it's like an indication of the separation between these two countries.
Well, it may not be meaning a
May
separation.
not be a separation, yeah.
But of course it can, it shows the need of people to cooperate. The need for people really to get to cooperate. Because in Islam, we believe that all human beings, regardless of color or tongue or creed or anything else, they are brothers and sisters in one large family that goes back to Adam and Eve. May Allah be pleased with them both, you see. So if there is a dividing river between two countries, they have to live together, side by side, make use of that blessings for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without quarreling
Not
about
the opposite.
it. Without quarreling about it,
Yes, okay. Now, Abdurrahman.
Actually, I had a question in my mind, but Zabihullah triggered two more questions. Actually.
Yes. Okay, so
The
now you have
first-
three.
Yeah. The first is related to the precious stones. Are they related to mountains? Or
You see, precious stones, most of them need tremendous pressure to form. And this tremendous pressure to form can only take place in the roots of mountains. You see, this is the only area where you can get diamond, for example, you see, where you can get diamond pipes, you see. You can get other precious stones. Because these roots actually form under tremendous pressure and very high temperatures. And actually, most precious stones need these conditions to form. When a mountain is eroded at the peak, it rises up. It pulls itself or its root from within the zone of weakness, until these roots will be completely exposed at the surface. And then you can find these precious stones. And that's why probably in Afghanistan and in some areas in Pakistan, you can get plenty of these precious stones.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you have a question, but the diamond cut most of materials because it's very powerful, solid. So by which material we can cut the diamond?
Of course, you have to have certain alloys by which you can cut the diamond, because it's the hardest known mineral.
Yeah.
There is what we call hardness scale,
Yeah.
and number 10 in this hardness scale is diamond.
Yeah.
And of course, you have to use something with a greater hardness so that you can shape it. And you can only get this by certain alloys.
Zabihullah spoke also about mountains being pegs. In my lingual understanding of the word peg, it fixes two things together. So, but we know that continents move. How come they are pegs that fix mountains together while they are moving?
Thank you very much. You see, as I said, when a mountain chain is formed, this movement stops. It comes to a big halt. No more movement. Until you erode that mountain completely, until this mountain is completely pulled from the zone of weakness, then the mountain is dead and the movement can start again.
Okay.
So we come to my question now.
Okay.
In this verse, God says the mountains are firm. In another verse, it says they move like clouds.
Yes.
So are there any relations between?
Yes, yes, indeed. وترى الجبال تحسبها جامدة وهي تمر مر السحاب صنع الله الذي أتقن كل شيء. This refers to the movement, the rotation of the earth around its own axis, and the mountains being part of the earth. If the earth rotates, the mountains will also rotate, and the clouds are actually part of the earth, because the atmosphere is attracted to the earth by gravity. So if Allah says that you will see the mountains, they appear as if they are fixed, but actually they are moving with the same speed as the clouds, you see. This is an indirect way of saying that the earth rotates around its own axis without really disturbing the Bedouins in Arabia 14 centuries ago, because if Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam came to tell them that the earth is rotating around its own axis, nobody could have accepted Islam.
So this means that the layers of earth themselves are not rotating around each other?
No, they are not. They are rotating around each other. You will get a lot of chaos, you see. What is moving is the outer rocky cover alone. And this movement is very slow, a few centimeters per year, so that it will not disturb us. It will not be disturbed by it, you see. So the movement is very gentle, very smooth, so that it will not disturb living beings on the surface of the globe.
So finally, Dr. Zaghlul, the formation of the mountains as stabilizers to earth, I think it shows the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an indication of His power and Almighty Allah. And this is something that we should be learning from, because and also in this ayah it says لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ.
No.
So I think this part is very important.
It's very important. You see, before I comment on لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ, so that you be better guided, I would like to say أنهارا وسبلا. Why did Allah say وسبلا?
Yes.
Because if you get a river valley and the river dried up, this valley becomes a good passageway.
Yes.
You see, and most of the passageways on the surface of the globe have actually been cut down physically by running water. Most of the dry valleys in our deserts actually were cut down by running water. So the direct connection between mountains and as stabilizers and rivers and passageways, أنهارا وسبلا, is really a scientific precision beyond description. Because unless you have mountains, you will not have rivers, and unless you have rivers, you will not have free passageways on the surface of the globe, particularly if you realize that the earth started by a highly rugged and highly complex topography.
Yes.
لعلكم تهتدون. Of course, if you live in a desert, people living in the desert usually mark the area by peaks of mountains, mark the area by valleys. See, during the day and during the night they can use stars. So لعلكم تهتدون, it has got double
Two
meaning.
meanings, yes.
First meaning is that you can easily find your way during daylight.
Okay.
Second meaning, you can see the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this can direct you to worship your Lord
also
in a better way.
All right. Okay. We thank you very much, Dr. Zaghlul Nangar, for being here with us. It was a pleasure to have you. And I also like to thank Abdurrahman and Zabihullah for being here with us. My dear brothers and sisters, with this we come to the end of this episode of Quran and Science. See you in the next edition. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.